Welcome to Insights. I'm Eric. Thanks for stopping by. We're going to be talking about coffee today. Coffee's been a setup that's been in the conversation for a couple of weeks, and we've been watching it probably for a month here for various reasons. I want to introduce some of the concepts of the evolution of the trade here for open content for non-subscribers, and then we're going to talk about the details specifically for the subscribers because this thing is continuing to evolve and it is setting up in a way that I think everybody should be watching it. In a general term, and I think this is where the discussion goes for open content, we're going to talk about the evolution of the trade. And coffee is defined by the three time frames. It's defined by the daily time frame, the weekly time frame, and the monthly time frame. Everything is moved or discussed in terms of cycles, whether it be price or time cycles, but it's the movement through these cycles which sets up either double, triple alignment. It's the alignment of the three time frames, and we keep following them. It defines the composite trends, but we can keep following them as long as the primary trend is up or down. Now, the primary trend for coffee flipped 5 months ago. It's produced only a 3% return. Some of that has to do with energy, and again, we're going to talk about that later. But it is the movement of energy recently that caught our attention. It's one of the things that has sparked this rally, where in the past it's kind of drug its feet or dragged its feet along because it couldn't get going. It really lacked the energy bill to support the rally. But right now I want to talk about the three time frames and how coffee or any asset within the matrix moves along within the three time frames in the evolution of the trade. So specifically, I've talked about the primary trend, which is right here, right down here. But ultimately, the three time frames are the daily, the weekly, and the monthly time frames. And here we talk about the time frames in terms of boxes. Green boxes are up impulses, unshaded regions, which are just the gray areas, are down impulse. So essentially the market's in an up or a down impulse. And this goes for the weekly and the monthly time frames. What catches our interest is that the monthly time frame is starting to flip up. It's been up for 5 months. But remember, we can't study all three time frames simultaneously. Human minds usually can only study one piece of information at a time. So the computer is like our trading companion. It can study the time frames simultaneously. And I created these squiggles here to represent the cycles that are in play, roughly. And as you can see, as we overlay these, the computer recognizes the green boxes as up impulses, and sometimes the green boxes are continuous and other times they're non-continuous. But in general, it learns the up cycles as well as the down cycles, not only within the daily, it does this within the weekly. And again, let me line these up roughly. There we go. And this is my eyeball construction of it. The computer understands it from a mathematical perspective. It tries to define these cycles, and then it normalizes them so that we can read them. Whether or not the cycle is extended based on a normal distribution beyond what I would call a high probability cycle versus a low probability outlier or extreme. Normal distribution is a statistical distribution within an infinite number of cycles. I've just drawn a couple of here on the daily and a couple of them on the weekly. They also exist on the monthly here, and I'll overlay a few. I'll try and get them right. I think it's right about there. Where, maybe it's right in that zone. Okay, so essentially these are my attempts to eyeball, but the computer is studying them. As much as the database goes back, coffee goes back a long time on all three time frames, but we don't need to study them all. You really need a random sample of about 20 cycles in order for the computer to establish and start learning from them. So we have that on all three time frames. What we're trying to establish is whether you have up, up, and up. And that's what we currently have. And this is the visualization. Up is turning up. We have a new green box here. We have a new green box here. And we have a new green box here. That creates triple alignment and generates a powerful agreement across three time frames, which then drive composite trend. Ultimately, trends do fall out of alignment, and that's the breathing process. Sometimes the daily slips out, falls down. Sometimes that downturn in the daily doesn't necessarily turn the weekly or the monthly down. If you have a deep correction, you'll get a downturn in the daily and then a downturn in a weekly. But at times, you might have the trend remains up in the monthly. And what we do is we establish within that time frame resets, which means that the primary trend still stays up or the weekly trend stays up. The daily trend turns down and then turns back up. And then we have a reset of triple alignment within the composite trend. And the composite trend is a scoring of all three time frames. Up, up, up is a composite trend that's in triple up. On up, down, up is a composite trend that's double up, and so on. The computer will identify it here. This one's triple up. And essentially we follow the composite trend, we follow the primary trend to establish our core position, we follow the composite trend to move in and out of that core position, sell it if we believe it's necessary, escalate if we believe it's necessary, and that's based on energy. So we're going to talk about energy a little bit more, but I want to end the discussion for the open content. I want to thank people for watching this. Feel free to learn more about the evolution of the trade. I'm going to put a link under here that takes you to the blog that describes it in detail. There's numerous written reviews and topics on this content on the evolution of the trade, as well as videos. Watch them to better familiarize yourself with what's taken place. And ultimately, it will teach you to follow the trade in a professional manner or follow the trend as it evolves through the 4 cycles, which is the early nibble phase. You see the primary trend flip, which is right here. That was 5 months ago. Then inside those flips, you get movement up and down within the weekly, which creates resets, which is right here. That's phase 3. And ultimately, the primary trend moves along and gets so extended, either in terms of price or time, that it enters primary trend decline, which is the 4th phase. And that's a time of which we no longer buy resets. We look to sell the position and get out. So that's the evolution of the trade. And if you have any questions, contact me at the blog or leave some comments under the video. If not, thanks for watching and enjoy your trading day.